Dream Show. I'm Teresa Anderson, and this is episode 298. And I've just finished recording the conversation with my guest, TV host and business leader Heidi Dugan. Based in Shanghai, China, Heidi Dugan is a globally recognized business leader, TV host and board advisor who has spent over 30 years bridging the worlds of China and the West. Known for her ability to captivate audiences from boardrooms to live television, with more than 6 million daily viewers on her TV show, to $1.5 million in live sales on national TV, Heidi has been featured in leading media, including Channel 9 News, Marie Claire, the Financial Times, and the South China Morning Post. She brings a wealth of real-world expertise in influence, communication, and leadership. And Heidi is also the creator of The Power of Presence, a transformative program that helps women in leadership move from being overlooked to commanding any room with confidence, impact, and authenticity. Her mission is simple: to empower women to speak, lead, and inspire with a presence that cannot be ignored. So first up in our conversation today, Heidi shares her dream. I always ask our guests to tell me nothing at all about their dream until we begin recording. So you get to experience how we begin to explore each dream sight unseen. And after we talk about the dream, we talk about Heidi's work, we talk about how she ended up in China, how she ended up on TV on such a popular TV show, what that was like for her, and how she gradually over a period of time decided to move more into the work of helping people, such as leaders, discover their essence of presence and how to use that power of presence in their work and in their everyday life. And of course, as well as the stories, she gives lots of tips for you, whether you're standing on a stage or whether you're out there in the world talking to people on an everyday basis. Before we go into our conversation, a reminder of my website is janeteresa.com, and that's Teresa without an H, where you can find out about my dream resources, my services, my books, and my courses. And at the end of our chat, we share Heidi's contact details, and these are also in the show notes. So let's go to Shanghai and to Heidi. Welcome to the Dream Show, Heidi.
Thank you. I am more than excited. This time I've waited a long time to be on this show.
That's really lovely. Thank you. And you're in Shanghai in China.
I am. It's actually a magical day here. I've just been to the gym, gone for a walk, and I've just sort of come back and settled myself in for this incredible podcast.
Thank you. It's so lovely to have you. So as you know, I don't know anything about your dream until you present it. So we'll start with your dream, we'll explore your dream, and then we'll work into all the wonderful things that you're doing at the moment that I know our audience will be really, really keen to hear about. So what was your dream, Heidi?
So, and I just want to ask you a quick question before I go into it, because do you want all the descriptions, what I felt, what I saw, the colours and all that kind of thing, or more an overview?
No, the whole thing, thank you. Yeah. And I have my pen, as you can see, I'll be taking notes, so I remember it all.
So I'm just going to give you a bit of a quick back sort of history. Is when you asked me to come onto this show, I actually reflected what dream I could remember. And of course, I couldn't remember anything. And so that night, just before I went to bed, I asked my soul guides, is there a message that I am not receiving that I think perhaps I need to know, but that Jane Teresa Anderson can actually unlock for me? And then I went to sleep, and it was so interesting because I had sort of different dreams, woke up a few times, and then it was in the morning. What happened was I was moving from one dream, and then we had been doing some sort of manual labor or sort of climbing a mountain. I was with a group of people. And that was the end of my past dream. And we were just coming back into a city, and we're coming into what seemed to be like a pub. And I remember that all the tables were high tables, high chairs, and we were at the front, and I was with three to four other people. They were all guys, and they were ordering a drink, and I paid for it. And I remembered that I was not drinking. I think I was having like a soda water, and I was like, oh, all right. I paid for it. And I remember it was $45. Anyway, we went and sat down, and then, time sort of sped up, and then they were like, oh, I've got to leave, and I was like, okay, great. And I was still sitting there finishing my drink. And then one of the waiters came up to me and said, oh, before you leave, there's still a bill that needs to be paid. And I was like, what? I haven't had another drink. It's like, oh, the other guys ordered another drink, and it's $45. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I basically spent $90 for one drink. And I remember being quite annoyed and frustrated at the time. And I was sort of like, oh, well, whatever, what's done is done. And then a woman came up to me, and she said, at that point, I realized that there are a lot of people around at this pub. And then it sort of changed from a pub to just sort of a same high tables, but it's sort of a different space. And there are a lot more women around, but still men. And then a woman came up to me. She had sort of mousy colored hair, slightly bigger frame, but just a really beautiful smile. And she came up and said, hey, Heidi, are you ready to go on? And I was like, what? What do you mean? She goes, are you getting up and speaking? And at that point, I was like, I clearly knew I was meant to be there, that I had already done that mental shift. And I was like, oh, no, I thought you invited me here for this. I didn't realize I had to get up and speak. And she's like, yeah. And I remember that feeling going from surprise to, oh my God, what am I going to say? And then as I'm walking up, I was like, I've got this. I've done this so many times before. And so I remember looking out at, there probably would have been about 80, 90 people in front of me. And I started speaking. And of course, I had literally no time to prepare. And I remember starting to speak and saying, so, how do we enjoy networking, and I started sort of making a bit of a joke about, how much we all hate networking, but how it's important, and everyone was laughing. And it was just meant to be a teaser or something just at the beginning, and said, I'll be coming back soon. And everyone's like, yeah, everyone was really excited. And so I walked away, and I was talking to the organizer of the event, and I don't remember what I was saying to her. But I remember at that point, they then said, oh, look, you're ready to go up again. And I looked out into the audience, and there were very few people there. And because it had gotten quite late, so time had obviously passed quite quickly, and it had gotten late before they were asking me to get back up on stage. And I sort of was like, really? Really? You want me to go out there? Like, so many people have left. And they're like, no, we've got this whole group of women here. They've gone and changed. They're changing their clothes because we've got now a catwalk runway. And I was, oh, and they're like, they're going to be on stage, and you've got to get your dress on, but they want you to critique their dress and help them get ready for it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was sort of coming into this going, this is so weird, but all right, that is what I do. It's all about presence. And I was like, fantastic. So I could see the area that I had sort of the place, the bar area had sort of blackened out. And then I could see it was almost like a H&M change room, where I could see all these women putting on these gowns. And I was sort of watching, just sort of intrigued by what they were doing. And then in front of me, there was this celebrity. And he was an Asian guy, and he clearly a blogger with a big following. He was wearing black and white, just beautiful looking person, very angelic. And he was sort of getting on the ground and laying out this white sort of almost looked like a carpet with this black silk roses. And he put them on top of it. And then he got a light right next to his head, and he was bending down and taking a photo. And I was standing on this side, and I was sort of watching what he was doing. And even though I couldn't see what the photo looked like, I knew what it looked like. I knew that it was just this sort of deep dark behind him, and that it was just this very, very interesting sort of photo that was just highlighting him. Anyway, I was just sort of very intrigued by it. And then the woman came over to me and said, would you like to get a photo as well? Would you like to do some photos? And I was like, sure, I'm always up. And at this point, I'm sort of like, just going with the flow of everything, just sort of living the moment. And I went over to him and I was like, would you mind if I use your setup to take a photo? And he's like, oh, no, absolutely. It was just so sweet. I thought, well, I can't take the same photo. And so I sort of came around, and there was a sofa behind, and I was going to lean back on that with the setup that he had done. But then I thought, oh, I'm just going to move it. And it was really interesting. So the white carpet, what I thought was a white carpet, actually moved were angels, 2 white angels' wings.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was like, kind of like sort of taken back. And I mean, clearly they weren't real angel's wings. They were like, the ones that you buy, and they're actually almost identical to the ones that I bought my daughter when she was a young baby, and we had them framed, and they're always been above her bed. And so that it was that kind of beautiful white angel wings. And then on top of it were these beautiful silk black roses that were sitting there. And I leaned back on the sofa with this sort of in front of me, and the camera flash went off and my alarm went off, and I woke up. It was really interesting because it was one of those dreams, and I think, you have it, is where you have so many different emotions, and, by the end you're sort of going, all right, what else have you got for me?
Yeah, that's absolutely glorious. And it's lovely that the Asian celebrity, you said he felt angelic, he was angelic, and then later on you discovered that the concept was angel wings behind that as well, that you were really focused on at the end. Yeah.
And which is interesting because now that we're saying that, I didn't actually connect the two. I knew that he looked that beautiful sort of kind of almost feminine, angelic sort of look, but I didn't connect that the wings with, although they were him putting them down. But now you say that, I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
And angelic nature, definitely. And although we're going to look at the rest of the dreams, you thought that the angel wings in the dream reminded you of the ones that you bought and framed when your daughter was born.
They were very much like that.
Yeah.
So when she was young, we bought her, and they're feathered. They're all feathered, like they're just beautiful, and they're tied together with a ribbon. And so she had it when she was very young, and I've always said to her, these are your angel wings. And she's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, no, darling, you were an angel. You fell down. I said, she's got a birthmark. And I said, that's your mark, angel mark. And I've always sort of, so I didn't, in the dream, I didn't think they were hers necessarily, but I noted that that's what they were. They were those angel wings, that, it's sort of brand new and laid out beautifully.
Yeah, that's so lovely because the way that I look at dreams is that everyone and everything in the dream represents something about the dreamer or is a part of the dreamer. So those angel wings, in a way, are a part of you. They are part of your
Yes.
angel. And so the very things that you said to your daughter, "Oh, but you are an angel. You fell here. You are an angel," is what you're referencing in the dream there too. It's like there is a part of me that is angelic and that has angel
Yeah.
wings, and I really want to get up close and photograph this because I really want to see this. I really want to know this. But we'll come back to that because that's the end of the dream. We'll start at the
Okay.
beginning. So you'd been in the previous dream, you'd been climbing a mountain. So we obviously not looking at that dream, but you'd been trying something really
No.
hard or trying to get on top of something or
Yeah, it was something challenging. It was, and I really can't remember. I've tried to sort of think back at it. And although I do believe that everything that we dream it has got some meaning, for me, this specific thing was the transition from that into the pub with the people that had come from that previous dream.
yes, yes, that's really lovely. So the previous dream was something about obviously overcoming a challenge or having a challenge. And well, I remember from my mountaineering days in Scotland that whenever you did a mountain, the first thing you did when you got back down to the ground level was go to a pub. So
Yeah.
maybe,
Yes.
would you agree with that? It's the kind of thing that you do, go to the pub and celebrate.
Absolutely. I mean, it's that, you know, it's the celebration, actually, what it is. It's that coming together, being able to see people, look them in the eye and go, my God, we did that. And just taking that time as, together to
Yes.
have a beer or whatever it is.
Yeah, so you've got that lovely sense in the dream. So the dream you're processing in the day or two before the dream, you were probably reflecting, or even just because you knew you were coming on the show, you were reflecting all the challenges or recent challenges that you've been through and wanting to come down to earth, so to speak, and to celebrate them as if you're in the pub and say, okay, so I've done all of that. I'm really pleased with all of
Yeah.
that. It was a lot of hard work. What am I doing next? Whether it's to do with that or something else. So it's interesting that nearly all the people in the pub are male, or the ones that come to central to the drama are male. And they weren't people that you know in waking life. So often when we meet men in our dreams, they represent the male side of ourselves. So that's like the left brain, the logical side, the yang, the world of work. So, straight away there's a sense of, this has been about challenges that you're celebrating, that you've overcome, and this is possibly about work here to begin with. What do I want to do next in the kind of work sense? And they are drinking and you're having to pay. You're only having a soda water. Is that kind of how you would be in life, that you'd have the soda water rather than the drink? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's a life choice, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but even though you've got that life choice, which would be the same for me, incidentally, you're having to pay for other people's drinks for something that you wouldn't have yourself. You're having to pay for them. So there's a sense of, although I'm celebrating all these wonderful things that I've done, I'm having to pay for something. In fact, you're having to pay for it
Yeah.
twice because after they leave, the waiter comes to you and you've got to pay for it twice. So it's a sense of I'm actually quite happy with my, recollecting what I've done with my soda water here. But somehow I'm paying for something, whether that's emotionally or physically. I'm paying for something that I've done. We all pay a price at various stages in our lives for
Yeah.
things. And sometimes after a challenge, I'm not saying this is you at all. It can be the price of burnout or exhaustion, for example. There's a price to pay. So it's interesting that the price was $45 then and later again. And
Yes.
sometimes, but not always, sometimes that number in a dream is quite precise. So, for example, it could be the age 45. So,
I'm way older than that.
so if you think back to when you were 45, very roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we're looking at, and we've got, a huge number of people listening in, so you can be as vague or whatever as you wish. But we're looking at when you were 45, where there was a sense of, I had to pay for something or it cost me something, particularly around a challenge that you're referencing back.
Interesting. I wonder whether definitely a challenge. I've just, had a divorce, a very amicable or a smooth divorce. I would say, although it's sort of the feelings started earlier, probably about 45 would have been the time where I had started to make the shift, prepare myself for actually a change in my life and that it wasn't going to continue this way. So it may actually be that, interestingly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so particularly because it really sprung to mind quite quickly. So there's that sense of something happened that then caused you to rethink how you approach life, or that not only that, but gave you the opportunity. There's a change in my life, for good or for bad. There's a change in my life. This is an opportunity to do something different, or to do something differently, to reevaluate. So there's a sense that your dream, partly because you asked for a dream that would give you a message, and partly maybe
Yeah.
because you're also thinking, this is a point in my life for whatever reason where I just want to reevaluate, I want to look at all the hard work I've done coming up and down the mountain, and I want to decide what I'm doing next, what I want to keep, what I want to change. And in your dreaming mind, it's reminding you, yeah, this is like when you were about 45 and you went through that, and there may or may not be a feeling that when you were 45 that you paid for that. It cost you, not
Oh,
necessarily
yeah.
financially in the divorce, but it cost you at some level. It would cost all of us going through a change.
Yeah.
And I like that there was a waiter between the two lots of $45, because to me there was maybe a pun there, but and I'm waiting. Oh, and yeah, no, there's more to pay. There's more to pay for
Yeah.
every, yeah.
Yeah.
And it could also be, Heidi, that sometimes when we're ready to make a big change in life, or we're reevaluating life, we can be programmed. Depending on last time I made a big change, maybe when you were 45 and it cost you a lot emotionally or whatever, financially, I don't know. You could be slightly programmed that I'm ready to make a big change, and last time I made a change, it cost me. So, you could have a bit of programming in there that change costs. And of course, it doesn't necessarily. It may have cost you emotionally or whatever when you were 45. It doesn't need to now, but we can still have that kind of story that we tell ourselves that, it's going to cost me again, which is interesting. And then you said that you felt annoyed and frustrated, which is understandable. Then you said, what's done is done, which is a lovely, wise thing to say to yourself in dreams or in life. Like, it's done. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
And I love the moving on then changed the demographic of the pub to mostly female. So what you were doing then was switching more to the female side of yourself, your inner female, your yin, your inner world, your spirituality, your emotional self, your creativity, the inner world as opposed to the outer world to some extent. So there's a sense of, what I really need to do now, rather than think necessarily about business from a business point of view, is to start by thinking about my inner world and where I'm at in my inner world and what I want from that, and, consult that. And that will probably not so much cost me $45 or cost me anything at all. In fact, when I look into my inner world, I usually get rewards rather than costs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of feeling. And then, just looking at my notes, you get the lovely woman that approached you, and it was a smile that captivated you, wasn't it? Yeah. What was her energy?
She was sort of young, but it was just, she was doing what she was doing, and she had this sort of she was just very friendly and a kind person. So, which I thought was really interesting and enthusiastic. She was really excited to have me there. So it was that was why I think I was so surprised. I was like, oh, what? What, I need to talk at this?
So instead of having people demanding that you pay for their drinks and leaving you frustrated and annoyed, you've got this part of yourself that is actually really excited and really kind and really friendly. So it's almost like changing from, when you're considering whatever changes you're doing, changing from I've got to look hard at my business or whatever it is and what it will cost me financially or emotionally. Instead of that, looking at the part of yourself or joining forces with the part of yourself which is kind and loving and enthusiastic and supportive, because that's where the nugget or seed of the change comes in.
That's so interesting.
And she says, are you ready? She basically says, are you ready? Even though in the dream she meant to get up on stage, are you ready? So are you ready to come from this angle when you're making your next decisions? And as you know, a very seasoned public speaker, you know, in real life, you could get up on that stage and just do whatever it took and be totally spontaneous. But in the dream, it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? So the dream scenario is kind of a little bit different from waking life. And that's, to me, reflecting, if I'm really stepping into my inner world, making that my priority, because if I know myself deeply inside, I'm going to make the best decisions on the outside. What am I going to say? Where am I? This is a bit unknown. This is uncertain, but this is really interesting. Yeah. And you get up on the stage anyway, so you're embracing uncertainty. I can do this. I'm just reading my notes. So you start by making a joke, which is a really good place to start. Don't we all hate networking? Yes, we do. Talk to me about networking a little bit.
Oh, look, you know, it's one of the things that I actually teach, and it's about sort of embracing, you know, and networking and sort of having that, making an opportunity out of something that you don't like, and having a goal and a reason to be wherever it is that you are, that you're able to network and connect with people that can help you. And so it was a joke because, like, I was very conscious that I was making a joke because this was a networking, and everything I do, being on the chamber of this OzCham, you know, where it's all about networking, they kind of got the joke that it was like no one likes it, and yet it's something that I'm doing constantly. So it was a really sort of, you know, that feeling when people laugh and they sort of like, oh. And it kind of is a release.
Yes.
Like, we really don't like it and it's okay. And it was that kind of a release that I found that the audience had when I said it, and sort of I felt that they were a lot more relaxed.
That's really lovely. So if everyone in the dream is a part of yourself is like that too. I can release, I can relax, I feel more comfortable. I'm not up here with an agenda. I am connecting with what I really feel deep down inside, and I'm connecting with how I can take my next steps in my life through that kind of engaging, connecting, relaxing, releasing kind of feeling. And that's really important to me and to them. And then, of course, you thought, right, I've given my message, I'll get off stage now. But then they surprised you by going up for part 2 and everyone had gone, apparently.
Yeah, like there were a few people lingering, but so many people had gone. I was like, because you know how time goes, it gets really warped, and it was like the time that they had left from the beginning to when I was meant to get up again, I felt was just a bit too long. You know, people are kind of getting antsy and they wanted to go.
Yeah.
So so that was the feeling when I'm looking up and I'm like, guys, it doesn't that many people around.
Okay, so although the dream actually turned out well, which we're going to, and they all came back in droves, there's that feeling in that dream there of I'm waiting, just like you were earlier in the dream with the waiter. There's a period of waiting and a sense of it's all going to disappear. And I think, you know, listening to you there and your connections with it, we can all have that feeling when we're making changes in our life of, if I leave this too long, I'm going to lose the opportunity, or I should be acting quickly. Whereas in the dream, actually, they all came back. So there's a sense there of it alerting you to a feeling that you are programmed, or your experiences in life have told you so far not to leave things too long because opportunities can disappear. Whereas in fact, your dreaming mind says, actually, they don't. They can come back in a different way. So it's like, take time with this. This is okay. Because all they were doing was changing clothes, but changing metaphorically. All I am doing in this time I'm taking out is changing my mind, my view, my perspective. And there's no hurry, because if I jump back in too soon, I might be coming back with not the full thing that I really want to come back with. I want to take more time with this changing. And so you've got the catwalk runway. It's really like almost like I'm going to look at all these different versions of myself and I'm going to decide which of these possibilities I can go with. They reminded you of an H&M change room. I wonder why you picked H&M rather than any other brand.
Probably because recently I had a friend in town, and I went with her to H&M, and I just remember the view of her. She was going in, trying and changing, but I just remember that view of, and I think that probably because in the dream I was watching other people, I wasn't actually doing it myself. And with her, it was the same. I was helping her choose clothes, change clothes for a photo shoot, actually.
Oh.
And so I was helping her. So I probably sort of pulled that into my
Yes.
dream, because I literally was doing the exact same thing with her as, which I'm now realizing, with the women in the dream.
Yes,
although
yeah.
they were getting all very, very dressed up.
No, that makes sense. Your dreamy mind pulled on a perfect and recent image to show that. And what you were doing in Waking Love with your friend was helping her to decide for a photo shoot, helping her to decide what image she wanted to put forward or how she wanted
Yes.
to be. So it fits beautifully. But your dream was, in fact, they were coming out in gowns. So it was like really high-end.
Yes.
High-end look. So, and that was when they, so I was looking at my notes again. So you had the catwalk, but then you jumped quickly to, that's when the Asian celebrity, the angelic guy appeared.
So that was when I was looking at them, they're getting changed, and I was waiting for them to all finish. I'd sort of seen that the catwalk was there and that we were going to be doing that, and that the celebrity was also there for that.
Great, got it.
I was just sort of standing around, and this woman came up, the organisers, while I was watching him, and said, yeah.
Okay, so in fact, you weren't just standing around, you were waiting, because waiting is a good thing to do, spending time.
Yes.
Waiting, which you otherwise might think losing opportunities, is actually a time when you are actually working out what to do next, or which of these garments is going to work. And what springs to mind straight away is this angelic guy who, I don't know, Heidi, but as I listen to you talk about him, he seems to have a lot of female attributes in terms of he's got that soft, yeah. So would you say that he was kind of like a lovely yin-yang kind of blend?
You know, now that you say it, I would say that he would be sort of like absolute split down the middle. And especially even with the clothing, he was wearing black and white. The photos, everything he was wearing was all black and white. That was like the only color. And his face, very pale skin, but just angelic and just a beautiful, beautiful looking person.
Yeah. So I love that, you know, when you think about the yin-yang sign, you think of black and white as well, don't you? So it's got black and white, it's got both sides, yeah. So this was you at that stage tuning into, you know, what I really want to embrace is that perfect balance of male and female energy myself, that kind of yin-yang, angelic kind of feeling. That's where I want to go forward from now. That's the costume I'm looking for, but it's not just a costume, it's not just an image, it actually is that kind of nature that I want to embrace next. And it's interesting because he was kind of, he wasn't doing a photo shoot, but he was getting a photo. And when you had been in Waking Life with your friend, you were preparing her for a photo shoot. So it was almost like the photo was capturing, this is the picture of how I want to go forward. Talk to me about Black Silk Roses.
You know what? I've never thought about it at all. It was almost like it was part of his shirt, but then it wasn't. And they were just like, I just remember that they were like shiny, and it was just luxurious. And I would say, although they weren't real, they were just beautifully delicate, and was such a lovely combination with the feathers from the wings.
Yeah, so delicate. And not real, which doesn't mean to say that you are embracing an unreal part of yourself, but things that are reminiscent of nature, things that are reminiscent of roses or angel wings or feathers. So it's that energy, connecting with that energy within yourself that's well balanced, yin yang, angelic, gentle, and connecting in some way with a sense of nature and with the energy of nature, not actually nature itself, but that kind of feel, luxurious, kind of high end, and reminding yourself, because of the backdrop of the feathers, of the kind of feelings you have about your daughter. And I think we all do this. We can all have loving and amazing feelings for other people and sometimes forget to have them for ourselves, to see ourselves in the same light. And you literally had a light by your head, or he did and you did in the dream too. So it's like, I'm seeing myself in a new light here. And I loved the sofa too, which to me felt like a sofa is a place where you relax and lean back. So again, it was like, just relax, just lean back, don't have to prepare every single note. This is something that you are just going to flow with. And there was a sense of flow at the end of the dream. So although, if we were doing, if you were my client, which you're not, we'd be spending an hour on this and going, much deeper. What does that leave you with a feeling of so far? Did you get a message from that you were looking for?
Yeah, it's really interesting how you bring in and refer to the other people as different sides of myself. I've always thought in dreams that the other people are representing the people that I'm, having an experience with, and that they're not actually me. So that's, first of all, just quite interesting. And I think time, that waiting comment is probably the biggest takeaway from this, because with my work, I'm also doing a massive transition, and really everything that I have done up until now is really about promoting my business, promoting myself. And although when I started, I was always teaching presentation skills and presenting and, being on TV and things like that. And I've sort of been really a living version of what I would always teach. And now I've gone really full circle back to going, this is actually what I want to do. This is actually where I get my fulfillment from, because I know it's such a pain point for so many women, so many people. And it is something that gives me incredible, it's what drives me, it's what motivates me when I can help someone in just a simple way, like being able to present or pitch something easier. The interesting thing is that I feel like I've been a little slow in getting to this realization. And even through this realization and me actually starting it, I actually feel like I've been I question myself. I shouldn't say I do feel it. I question myself. Am I taking longer than I should? And the big thing for me is that I just keep pulling myself back and going, I just want this to be authentic. I want it to be what I would teach someone in real life. So the online course that I've got, you're not ever speaking to the person in real life. And so what ends up happening is, you then have the business that surrounds it. But that waiting is an interesting one, because I'm sort of saying to myself, should I be moving a little bit faster? And then I pull myself and I say, I want this to be in this way. I need to feel everything that I'm doing now. I want to feel like this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that makes
gone are
perfect
the days
sense.
where you do things that you don't want.
Yes, exactly. That's so spot on. And you can kind of take a cue from the smiley faced woman in the dream, as well as the angelic guy. It's like, I want to be coming from that place. I want the people that I talk to feel that energy from me. That is the energy that I want to give. And if it takes a little bit more time for me, because I feel like I'm 99.9% there and I just want to be 100% there, and I want to take a little bit more time about how to make sure that comes across, then that is all really good. The dream, from what you're saying and how we've explored it, really does seem to be endorsing what you're doing and taking away any fear of taking too long, and really making you feel more and more sure about the approach that you want to take.
Yeah, it's interesting, because, I meditate every day, and I would say, is this is this the path I'm meant to be on? I'm really all about simplifying things and just, I don't now in my life, I don't want to do 1,000 things. I want to do one thing. I want to do it well. Yes, I want to make money, but I want it to mean something. And I have never, ever noticed the double 11s or the 111 ever before until the last year. And I'm telling you, it's like this bang, bang, slapping me in the face. And it's kind of funny now that sort of we've gone through this dream that it's like, seriously, you've asked, is this the right path? So many times, Heidi, we're going to give you the final answer. And Jane Teresa is going to give it to you. Yes, this is the right path. But you're actually part of this because when I spoke to my sister and told her that you had reached out, the one thing I said was, is this not a full circle moment? Like, there are times in your life, and I've probably this year haven't had them, that much, but one of them was when I was, I went to the University of Southern Queensland. Then I won the international award winner, and then I was asked to be on the board of the council for the University of Southern Queensland. They've just asked me again. They've asked me now to be on their committee. And I said, this is a few months ago, I said, it's such a full circle, where I've had this experience, didn't really think it would go anywhere. It was more for another path. And I've come back to it. And this conversation that we're having now for me is a full circle moment where, you knew my mother. We started with Sanctus stones. We did the crystals with you. And we just haven't, I've gone through so much that has happened. And when you reached out, like seriously, my sister Anne-Marie was like, oh my God, this is so full circle. And so, yeah, I actually feel that, these amazing, spirits, guides that I have, they really bring, everyone together at the right place and right time. And if a message was really like a baseball bat to my head, yes, about the breathing and about, yes, you're on the right path, I think this is it.
That's so lovely to hear, Heidi. That is really beautiful. It's so lovely. And there is so much of that, isn't there? Like you stepping on the stage in the Dream with Uncertainty. We just have to sort of do that sometimes and open up. And I love the way that you also pulled it together there and said, I don't want my life to be so complicated. I want it to be simple, to do one thing with, using different words, with the correct energy rather than lots of things, which is fantastic. So let's take our listeners back a little bit, because they can hear, obviously, that you are born in Australia, but you live in Shanghai.
Yeah.
How did you get to Shanghai? And tell us a little bit about the TV show.
Yeah, so my background is acting, and I taught a lot of deportment and grooming when I was in Australia. And I came to Shanghai, first of all, to study international trade. And it was the idea was not to do that as a job, but it was to just live in a different country and experience something different. So as soon as that was in Wuhan, and so as soon as I came to Shanghai, I spoke to the TV station and I started grooming their news reporters for English news, in how to speak and how to present themselves for the English news. And then at the time, foreigners were not allowed to be on TV, on national TV. And then this station was one of the biggest ones in Shanghai, got the license. They'd been working very hard for it. And they asked me if I would be the TV host of a show called You Are the Chef. So I became the first foreign TV host in China. And then to have her own show, I was doing that for many, many years, for 20 years actually. And then I continued doing a lot of corporate training. So I would work with, different, whether it was Ford, IBM, companies that were building themselves here in China and helping them with their senior management to understand how to strategize and how to localize their strategies for the China market. So I was doing that. And of course, I was doing my TV show. And then because my show just became so big, it was 3 times a day it was aired on TV. So we had like over 6 million viewers. And even now, people, unfortunately say, I grew up watching your show. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I've been around that long, I know.
Yes, exactly. So, but it's beautiful because you're part of someone's life.
Yes,
I was in someone's house, in many people's house for so many years. That's an incredible feeling, and to have that impact on people. And it also had such a massive impact on trade, because we were introducing ingredients like olive oil that were never used here at that time. And then people started asking for it, started wanting to cook for it. And then, people would buy it. And so there are a lot of things that I think we influenced at the time. And throughout this whole process, I've always done corporate training. I've worked with BP and helped their senior management for all of Asia. And often I wasn't even the key speaker, but they'd ask me to come along just to give good energy to their leaders that were there. So
give good energy. There's a little message there again, isn't it? It's all about giving good energy.
It is, and I think that it's an interesting one is, I do wake up, I do a meditation every day, and my goal is always to lead with light and to, no matter who it is to give, I know that life can be difficult. I have as many difficulties as everyone else, but I truly, truly believe that it is not okay for me to give a bad mood or my difficulties and hand that to someone else. And so I've always felt that it was really important that I've always got a smile and I share and I give good energy to other people that I meet throughout my day.
That's really lovely. And, you obviously have that presence because of that. And you're now already running the course, The Power of Presence. Even though you're still also thinking, where else can I take that according to the dream, and what can I do with it? And I'm going to ask you about it, obviously, but you pitch the power of presence for leaders or people that are leading and speaking. But it also occurred to me that, and bouncing off what you just said there too, we all need the power of presence, whether we're on the stage or not, just in our everyday lives, in our relationships, when we walk down the road and talk to strangers, that presence.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk
absolutely.
about that?
I think, and the reason why I didn't call it public speaking skills or presentation skills, because when I teach, I don't say move your hand here. And as much as I will, teach people how to use their body as a tool, the whole idea is that presence is about energy. It is about who you are and what you have been given and amplifying that. So absolutely everyone should be focusing on how they can do that better. Because when you are truly yourself, when you understand the tools that you've been given and how unique they are, where in this world we're so climatized to try and be like other people, to fit in and things like that. And what I have found, and especially having been an Australian in China, very early on, I realized I cannot be like them. That is not who I am. I cannot be like that. So I really embraced the fact that I was different. It also comes to a lot of the work that I do as like the chair of the Australian Chamber. There are a lot of, in agriculture and areas that I'm working, they're male-dominated areas. And I remember so clearly, I posted on Instagram once this photo of me at a Australian beef and lamb event, and there was probably about 500 people, and I was sitting at the top table, and the photo is literally me wearing a pink dress and a whole table, probably about 40, 50 people sitting at it, this whole sort of view of looking down, and I was the only woman. Now, I did not realize that I was the only woman. I received so many phone calls from friends going, "Oh my God, that photo that you sent, can you believe it?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "It's all men next to you, and they're all wearing black." So they're all wearing black and sort of deep navy sort of outfits. And I realized at that point that I did not even know that I was the only woman in pretty much, there was probably about 5 other women in the room. Didn't even occur to me, because I've always come with the fact that I'm unique, I'm different, as are you and everyone here. So I didn't really see that sort of male female sort of thing. But what it did make me very aware of was that I will no longer wear black. So I very, very rarely will wear a black color. And I used to love it, but now I feel very uncomfortable in it, because black absorbs energy. And I'm very much someone that I want to protect my own energy, and I want to use color or lightness to be able to reflect that and to give back really good energy. And that photo was an interesting one, because I was wearing this sort of beautiful pink dress in this sort of sea of darkness. And so it was through that I started sort of thinking, you know what? That I would say that was, interestingly, when I was 45.
Perfect.
I would say that it would have been exactly when I was 45.
Yes.
How strange is that? So, but it was really from there, and just more recently, I've gone, I'm going to get rid of everything that I don't enjoy, and just help people create that presence and help it reflect in their lives.
I absolutely love that. So, although obviously you're not going to go through a whole course with us today, but what approach do you take to helping people to? Because as you say, a lot of people do not know who they are or what they're here for. They're just towing the line, turning up according to other people's expectations or their ingrained expectations. What kind of steps or approaches do you take to help people, primarily women, I guess, to discover what is their unique or authentic self, and how, apart from starting with wearing whatever color they want?
Yeah, clearly it's a process, but I will use an example, really good example, that I actually gave my daughter yesterday. And it was more something that she has learned. She was going through some difficulty with a friend, and she sort of said, I sort of look back after this event, and I realized, what, I don't need to be around these people. They're good for this kind of circumstance, but they don't, if I'm around too many of them, they just don't lift me up and give me good energy. And she said, "Do you think I've grown?" And I said, it's not that what I'm most proud of, and this is where I really think everyone listening can grab this. What I was not most proud of the fact that she has an experience, takes the time to reflect, and then makes a decision moving forward whether this was working for her or it wasn't. So the first thing that I think when people go, "Well, I do know myself," or "I don't know myself," or we are like boats, on a wild and sort of windy ocean, being sort of pushed around a lot of the time. And what people don't realize is that there is a sail there for you to decide on where and what direction you want to go, and also how fast you want to go. So I think the first step is always, you walked outside, you went for a walk. How did that make you feel? If it makes you feel good, then that is something that gives you energy. So do more of it. If you're around these people, how did that make you feel? Wasn't so keen on this person. They just something that just didn't sit right. Then you go, okay, what can I do? Or, do I remove myself from that situation? If we go to the networking situation, most people go, I hate this situation. Now, unfortunately, they have to do it. It is an important part of work. So the thing is that I don't like it. What is it that I can do to make this better? If I have a goal that I want to find a new partner to work with me in my online course, I walk into that networking and I'm like, like the Where's Wally books,
Yes.
where you're looking and you're searching, and then it becomes something exciting. And you talk to someone, you go, no, that's not the one. And you believe truly that someone there is going to be the answer to that one problem that you've got. Then that networking event has purpose for you. It gives you energy when you've spoken to someone that doesn't give you, anything that you need. You can very energetically go, okay, I'm okay with letting that person go and walking on to something else. So that for me, I think is one of the first skills that people need to do is reflect. And it's not like, woe is me, oh, how do I feel? I'm not talking about just sitting in something for a long time. I'm saying when you do something, reflect on it and then make a decision. Did that work? Didn't that work? How can I make it work? Or should I let it go?
Yes, so it's a reflecting followed by an action based after
Exactly.
the being, then the doing, in a sense.
Exactly. And that's the reason when I was speaking to my daughter, I was like, because you have this skill, you do it all the time, that I have seen you just leaps and bounds, just become this incredible woman that is a good, kind, strong person in her life. And she's 20.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
So, anyone can do it. A teenager can do it. It's better when you're younger, but it's never too late, to step into that full presence of yourself.
And when you do that, that's so beautifully described. When you do that, is that sufficient to overcome the standard self-doubt that people have about speaking or presenting? Most people say, I can't do that. I'm not good enough for that.
Yeah. So, practice is, makes perfect. And the more you feel confident in yourself, look, I won't say I get nervous, but I will use the term, I get the butterflies and the feelings that everyone else gets. And a lot of people say, oh, you don't get nervous. I don't get nervous, but I have the same physical reaction of butterflies and stomach sort of churning and, something about to happen. Now, a lot of people name that as nervousness. I name that as good energy, supporting energy that's going to bring light to all the people.
Yes.
And so when I go out there, I'm never, nothing ever goes as planned. There have been times where I was at this big gala of like general managers for hotels and everyone was all, done up, and I went out on stage to host it. And as I started talking, my heel got caught on the stage and it literally got stuck. And what do you do? Like most people would freak out. And it was so funny because there was another woman that had come up on stage with me who was the organizer. And as I turned to look at her, you would not believe it. Her
she did
heel
the same.
got stuck. So there was this one crack and we were standing on the same line and she couldn't move hers. And everyone sort of, that silence. But I love the silence because I see it. in a way that I have their attention.
Yes, you certainly
And so
did.
I got down and I pulled my shoe out and I was like, look, and then everyone started laughing and I was like, looks like everyone's in a great mood. This is going to be a fantastic night. Put my shoe on and then, went out and everyone was like, came up and were like, oh my God, you're amazing. So will everyone be amazing? Everything takes time, I think, and it's the more you understand that you are different and that you understand that the people in the audience want you to be good.
Yes.
There's nothing worse than when you're really, really bad. People are not going, oh, she's so bad, oh, she's terrible. They're going, oh my God, I hope they
have my energy.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so they almost give you back that energy. And so I know that that the audience is always there rooting for me. And but when I go out on stage, I have a mantra, no matter if it's on stage or in a group of people, I always say this to myself. I say, I only need to influence one person in this audience. And my goal is to find that one person to make sure that I connect with them so deeply that this will have an effect on their life, just one person. And so, for like World Expo for the Australia Day here in China, I spoke to 2,500 people, 500 people, 1,000, 20, 10, 5 people. It doesn't matter for me how many people are, because I'm always just wanting to connect with that one person.
It's really interesting because I have a similar thing when I do radio, because I do a lot of radio. And so my general format will be I'm called as a dream expert and we take calls or we take texts. And I do the same when I go in. I say, if I can just help one person, I've done my job, just one person. Yeah. And it's also interesting that on the last one I did, which I think was a couple of weeks ago, the presenter was talking about a new presenter's dream. The new presenter would say, can you ask Jane Teresa about my dream? And her dream had been roughly a very common dream for a lot of radio presenters, where they go on air and nothing's working and there's a silence on air and they don't know what to do, and she's trying to get everything done. And we talked about the dream, but he reflected at the end and he said, it's always like that when you start in radio. But he said, when you've been in it as long as I have, you just know that all you do is you open your mouth and you talk and you tell stories, and I've always got that spontaneity, and he's very good at what he does. And I think that speaks to what you're saying there too. It's like, you started by saying things don't always go smoothly, like you get your heel caught in the crack. Maybe the radio equipment breaks down. But what you do then is you draw on your authenticity. Oh, I've got stories I can tell. All I'm doing here on radio, he will have said of himself, is it's not about getting the technicalities right. It's about I've got an audience out there and I'm speaking to them. And maybe he thinks too, if I influence one person,
Yeah. And I think the thing is that, and this is something I learned, having done TV for so long, is that you are only ever speaking to one person.
Yes.
People think you're speaking to 100,000 people, but you're not. You're only ever speaking to one person, because if it's on TV, it's that one person that's sitting in front of the TV watching. Yes. You're speaking to that person. That person up in the left bank of the seats, you're speaking to that one person. They think you're speaking to them. And so I found some of the times where where I've made mistakes and what have you, that they're the times where people have loved it the most.
Absolutely, yes. Because
they're the ones where they go, she's real.
Yes.
She's real.
Yes.
She's not perfect. She's just like me,
Yeah, and it's obvious that she's drawing on something of her own. She's going off script or something has happened.
That's right.
And I'm enjoying this. And what I'm getting out of this is this person, Heidi, is showing me her real self, and she's entertained. She's seeing me and she's talking to me about whatever else happens in the background, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Would you like to give, before you give details of your course so that people can actually go along and learn this stuff in depth and meet you, would you like to give you've already given loads of tips, would you like to give another couple of tips to our listeners?
Yeah, okay. well, first of all, is authenticity and sort of understanding, who you are. That's one of the key ones. Before I go into a meeting, or especially if it's on stage and it's something big or important, one of the things that I do is I actually take my shoes off and I plant my feet very firmly on the ground. And then what I do is I now can close my eyes, but I just focus on one point, and then I raise up onto the ball of my feet, and then I hold it, and then I gently let myself down again, and then I go up again, and then I gently let myself down again. And this is a great technique to, first of all, to bring you back into yourself instead of worrying about what's going to happen, what's out there. So it makes you highly conscious of yourself because you have to balance. And then the second thing is it also makes you very aware of gravity. And one of the best ways to truly, I think, tap into that authenticity is by being grounded and by having the feeling of the gravity pulling through your feet and the feeling of that focus that has now come from everywhere else and what's going around you back into yourself. It really brings your focus into it. The other thing that it does is when you're raising yourself up and you hold it there,
Yes.
You are doing just that. You are raising yourself up, and that takes energy. So you are calling on the energy around you to hold you and to create that focus, and then you're grounded. So that for me is one of the key exercises that anyone can do when they're practicing, when they're about to go into a meeting, when they've got a difficult conversation they have to have with someone. That's what you do, is you go into this, it'll bring your focus, it'll ground you, and it will also energize you.
Lift you up. Yeah, I love that. And, to hold that position up on your tippy toes, there's so much going on in your physical body that you can only do it if you hold tall and in good posture, can't you?
Absolutely. And it reminds me so much of my daily meditation. Although I'm sitting, the first thing that I do is I will focus on the grounding, and then the ground giving me back energy, so that's a warmth of energy that comes into me, and then the light that comes from above, which pulls me up. And so when you're raising to your toes, you're also getting that feeling of the energy coming up and coming through you. And so that's how I meditate, so that I'm getting the grounding energy, the light from above, and then it fills me, so that I'm able to share my authentic self, but also that I'm focused on what I'm doing, so that I'm able to have an actual communication
Yes.
relationship with the person or people that I'm presenting to.
And I love that, because by embodying it as a physical thing to do, a physical ritual, it's not in the too hard basket. If it's a visualization, it can be, I can't really do that visualization at the moment, but no, just go on your tiptoes. I wonder how many people listening in to our conversation have just got out of their chair or stopped their walk and had a little tiptoe.
I hope so. And you've just nailed it on the head. It's always the simple things that you do over and over and over again. Like, people look at all the habits and the decisions that I've made and go, wow, how do you do that? I do it over 50 something years, That's how I do it. I reflect. I decided this exercise made me feel good. I decided that having this meditation first for 5 minutes made me feel good and has led to 45 minutes. That's the thing, is anything done in repetition is where you're going to get the biggest results. So I prefer people to do nothing else but this one exercise. If they could do it before they go into a meeting, before they go into a difficult conversation, before they go on stage or speak, if they could do that one exercise consistently every day until it becomes them, the impact will be massive.
Yeah, I totally love that. And I love also that although you're asking them to repeat it, which is of course the right thing to do for the massive impact, you're cutting off all the years. They don't have to go through all the years where you went through
No.
to learn and discover these tips. And I know there'll be so many of them more if people do your course. So I'll put the links in the show notes, but talk people through how to contact you to do your course.
Yeah, so you can contact me through Lead with Presence on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. You can go to my website, heididugan.com. I'll give you the link at thepowerofpresence.sp is the page that they can get all the information about the course. It's 6 modules. There are so many bonuses there for people that maybe have to do calls through Zoom, that have to do calls on phone. How can they have an impact on it? So there's a heap of different bonuses, but it's really going through 24 different classes that are taking them step by step and building on the whatever they learnt today. They're going to apply it, and then the next day they're going to build on it. So it's very practical sort of course that they can do. And for me, I'm always if you can take one thing out of it and it changes and improves your life, then it is so worthwhile. And this course is really got like the best of everything that I've learned over the last, 30, 40 years, to be able to share it with people. And I know it works because
Here you are.
Me.
Yes.
It has resulted in the success that I have. It has resulted in the incredible partnerships, the incredible relationships, and also what, I would be so very happy for you to ask anyone that I do business with and that I have some sort of relationship with, what they think of me. I can tell you that, that I'm energetic. People go, she's so positive. There are so many things that have become me through this process. And that's why I'm just delighted to be able to share it with all your listeners.
That's so lovely. Well, there's direct links, and particularly the SP one, which is hard to put in words,
Yes.
will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Heidi. Thank you for letting us look into not only your outer world and what you do, but also most preciously your inner world through your dreams. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a great experience, and all my love to all of your listeners. And I hope that they, embrace their true self, and life is meant to be lived. Life is meant to be lived to its fullest. Grab, it as much as you can and just love life.
Totally. That's absolutely beautiful. So what I'd like to know is, did you stand up and do that tippy toe exercise? And if not, why not? Have a go now. After recording the session with Heidi and while waiting for the files to upload, before recording this bit, I did go and do a little standing on my tiptoes thing and imagining everything she imagined. And it really is a very lovely exercise. Lots and lots of things to take away from that talk. I hope that you enjoyed it, and particularly enjoyed unpacking her dream with me as well. How to contact Heidi? Her Instagram handle is Lead with Presence, all one word. Her LinkedIn account is Heidi-Dugan, and Dugan is spelled D-U-G-A-N. And her website, she mentioned her HeidiDugan.com website, and the Power of Presence website is The Power of Presence, all one word, thepowerofpresence.co/SP. And that will be in the show notes as well. Thank you, as always, to Ewan Gray for sound editing and composing our theme music, which I still love. To make sure you don't miss any of our future episodes, please hit the follow button at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you normally listen on my website at janeteresa.com, please pop over to Apple or Spotify, search for the show, and hit follow there. Because your follow helps more people discover the show in the first place, and that's a good thing. Thank you for listening to yet another episode of The Dream Show. You can find out more about my services, books and courses at janeteresa.com. And that's Teresa without an H. Have a beautiful day. I'm Jane Teresa Anderson.